very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much to Zentyal for inviting me to this conference, this summit. It's very interesting. And hello to the guys who know me. There's a few out there. I'm English. I tend to speak too fast. So if I'm going too fast, just put your hands up and I'll try and slow down. At least I don't have an Australian accent like some. Yeah, well, I do have two disadvantages, though. One, I'm a lawyer, which is not always the best thing. And the other thing, I'm technologically challenged. So this is not every machine that I touch kind of tends to explode and doesn't really work. Or you have to reboot, you know, the blue screen of death. Oh, hold on, this isn't Ubuntu, isn't it? You don't have the blue screen of death, isn't it? Sorry, yeah, history, old history. Anyway, yeah, I'm a lawyer. I have this disadvantage, but I do have the advantage. I'm a free software lawyer, so I'm a bit fashionable and sexy. So it kind of like goes down very well in the parties. You know, wow, free software law. Okay. The most important thing is to establish what I'm not going to talk about. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about IP, intellectual property rights. So you can big sigh of relief. You know, I'm not going to talk about software patents. That's another huge sigh of relief, but on my side, at least I don't have to explain what all that's about. I'm not even going to be talking about free software licenses, which is, again, you know, I'm going to make a huge assumption. No, not even a huge assumption. I'm going to assume that you know what a free software license is, and you also know what copyleft is. So if you have any problems about that, you can come and ask me in the break. But very much in this type of summit, that's very old history. We've been there, done that, and nothing to be said. Even about the FRO GPL and copyleft in the cloud. What am I going to talk about then? Well, I'm not even going to make you read one of these. You know, I thought, you know, before 12 o'clock, the coffee break's coming up. No. You're lucky you don't even have to. But for the exam at the end of the day, you know, I saw there's an exam. Yeah, is that right? There's an exam? Guys, watch out for part 3. So you better come and ask me some questions beforehand. This is what I'm going to talk about. This is much more interesting. I think this is what this summit's about, mainly. There's two interesting elements here. There's the cheese and there's the holes in the cheese. There's two very important things we can talk about. But we also have cheese without holes, and that's things. And so the Mace talk, and it's before the break actually. Last time I did this talk, it was before lunch, and I was going, no, I can't do this. Okay, right. Let's get things straight. Oh, I've got some package stuff as well. Now, you may be thinking of where we're going here. Ignacio was talking about products. Before that, we had some ingredients. Now we've got real products. Okay? So a couple of quick questions first. What is this? Anybody who lives in Spain? How many people live in Spain? Or live in England, going to a greasy spoon? Yeah, yeah. This is very recognizably a piece of proprietary software. No? Not recognized as such? I mean, everyone knows here it's a plato combinado, but in my speak, this is proprietary software. It's inflexible, it's restrictive, it's previously built. You don't know what's inside, despite the appearances. And that's basically it. You don't get much more than that. There are some slight variations, yeah? Some with more oil, less oil, yeah? But basically, this is the best example of what proprietary or non-free software is, yeah? Anybody recognize what this is? Anybody who's been to Catalonia knows what it is, but also it's in on the whole of the Mediterranean coast. No? No, this is free software. No? Pretty obvious. How do you make pan tomacat? You do it yourself. Yeah? Comes in all sorts of sizes. You can adapt it, you can change it, you can do what you want with it. I think it's a very, very useful and easy to spot piece of free software. And actually, you also share it. Now, that's strange, isn't it? Because the greasy spoon, the plato combinado, is not something that you really want to share. Or let's say the other way around. If you're beside the person eating the plato combinado, it's not something you want to share with him or her. Whereas if you're talking about pan tomato or the pica pica or the tapas and whatever it is, this is something we share. So I think this is very obviously recognizably a free software. Okay? What I do want, turning to a little bit more seriously, what I do want to talk about today is what do the legal aspects bring to your value proposition or to what you're offering? Because we all talk about the technology, it's open, Ignacio says we're changing the world, revolution. I'm the boring lawyer, so it's okay. When you're selling this stuff, when you're talking to your clients on down the channel, if someone asks you a legal question, you say, oh gosh, Or how do I answer that one? So I try and give you some pointers as to what you can say and what is the added value of just the license bit, the bit of paper that no one reads. Remember that bit? Well, what's the added value? Okay. Hold on, I guess. Hey. This is we all know that free software is a bit geeky, a bit freaky, a bit strange. What are the lawyers doing in there? Why have we got lawyers? And a lot of people on GitHub today saying, we don't want lawyers anymore. We don't even want licenses, which causes quite a lot of problems. And I suppose today is kind of like to get rid of that image and get rid of all these allegations, all this stuff that they say that it's not safe, it's not no quality control, not stable, all that. And except for Zentyal, which we know is not stable and not safe. Which is stable, which is safe, which has got no bugs, and it's all properly licensed. Let's see if we can try and get rid of a few of these myths. Okay. So going back, trying to bring what is the added value? Okay. Anybody who's an IT engineer in the room? IT engineers, IT department leaders, recognize any of these? Big bugs, ones you don't want, bugs, security holes, yeah, support coverage. All these things that are really the main concerns when you notice there's nothing to do about legal issues there. Huh? Have you ever had an IT director who's said, is the license correct? What can I do? No, not usually. They talk about these things, okay? They also talk about that, especially the first one, project delivery. Okay? Audits. These days we're getting more and more issues about audits and documentation. So what I'm trying to say is, how do the legal issues resolve this? How does free software actually solve these issues? Okay? Bugs. We all know software has bugs, except Zentyal. We all know that Zentyal does not have any bugs or open change, at least not ones that we know about today. Okay? What does the license say? The license is easy. It says you can have access to the source code. You can fix those bugs. You have a right to modify the software, so you can fix the bugs. Yeah? You can distribute the code. You can share your bug fixes with everybody. That's not something you can do with any proprietary software package. And on top of that, there are no confidentiality obligations. I've seen a number of these proprietary licenses which says no benchmarking, no revealing bugs or security holes. If it doesn't work, don't tell anybody. Well, that does not work with a free software license, because basically it says the opposite. It says if there is a bug, please tell everybody, and actually let's try and fix it together. So I think there's an important element that not just the support services and the maintenance and all these things that Zentyal will say that you need. No, that's subscription service. No. The actual free software license says that you can do all this, and this gives you a significant amount of value added for your channel and the end user. Back to our friend the cheese. Right, security holes. This is why I'm talking about the holes, just as important. Proprietary software is made to have holes in it. And we all know cheese is made to have holes in it. If otherwise it wouldn't have wouldn't be called Emmental. It would be called something else, probably Gruyere. Anyway, the thing is, since 1995 and even earlier, most proprietary software packages in the communications sector are mandated to have holes in them. Why? Why? Because the national governments say that terrorists are going to attack us. They say that there are all sorts of evil guys using communication software to prepare all sorts of horrible events, and therefore we need to surveil, we need to monitor, we need to check what's going on. So in most proprietary software packages, despite what the publisher, the manufacturer actually says, when they're installed and they're in a network, they are obliged to have a hole, a backdoor, where the government agencies can actually pop in and surveil and monitor what's going on. And see, what's even worse is that the manufacturer and the guy who's providing those telecommunication services, they're not allowed to tell the clients. In fact, they're not allowed to tell anybody that they have received a letter from the NSA or the FBI or even the British police or whatever that someone is monitoring these things. Okay? Big problem. Okay? If you look at a couple of the more recent news, we see that the security leaks that have been going on and issues that have arisen in Europe, notice that FBI has been surveilling European citizens. Here, GCHQ, which is the British Secret Service or monitoring service, has been basically monitoring communications networks and communication softwares. So that is a fairly serious issue. Obviously, the telecommunications operators have to comply with this because it's a legal mandate. But if you're not in these countries, if you're in Ecuador, or if you're in Venezuela, or you're in South Africa, you may not necessarily want that to happen. Okay. Recent paper by some really big names in the security sector from Princeton University, Hopkins, various other universities, basically saying, and this is the attempt by the American government to increase these security holes at the endpoint, i.e. in the user software. They're saying that's a serious issue, basically because not only the national security organizations will be using these security holes, but they are open for attacks and anybody else can try to use them. The great conclusion they have, obviously, is if everybody's using open source, that's not going to happen. Why? Because that's our alternative, cheese without any holes. Well, I used to try to get some cheese without any holes. Okay? Why? Because you've got the source code. You know where the bugs are. You're running it yourself. You can actually check if they're in. You can do your own security analyses. You can actually see what's going on. And if there are any security holes, whether they're on purpose or not, you can fix them, the same as any other bug. Support coverage. Now, that was always the big bugbear. Obviously, don't tell anybody at Zentyal. Like I'm saying this. This is the bit where the people from Zentyal have to comment. You can support yourself. The great thing about the free software license, the legal bit, says, you can change the software, you can update it, you can maintain it, you can evolve it, you can have new versions, and you can do it all yourself. Or you can ask the community to do it and see what gets back. Now, obviously, everybody says, yeah, fantastic free software community. In fact, not many communities are that active, and not many provide serious support, professional support, which is where the companies come in. But at least from the legal point of view, the license actually allows the end user and the people down the channel, down the chain, the distributors, resellers, whatever, ISVs, to modify, access, and distribute. And that's excellent news for providing support. And if Zentyal disappears, God forbid, Zentyal won't disappear. Please relax, relax. Zentyal is not going to disappear. But if it does, we've still got the code. We've still got support. We've got online. Most important, lifecycle. Yeah? We all know that December 2013 is a big date for people using Exchange because I believe next year a certain company who's in Redmond is not going to support it anymore. Well, that's the end of that product lifecycle. So everybody who's stuck with an Exchange server has to think twice. Actually, they don't anymore, do they? They're going to have to think once, and they should be here in Zaragoza for that. Anyway, so what does the open source say about that? Well, there's no limit. There's no license limit. There's no limit on the term of the license. It's not 5 years and keep on paying. Okay, the license says for as long as you like. It also says you can have access to the source code. So again, for the important thing about product lifecycle is support, maintenance, and evolution. So obviously, with the same things we talked about before, the license says you can do all that. I like that picture a bit. I'll sneezing at you there. The biggest issue, and you guys are all responsible for this, oversell. How many times have they promised that the whole software will change the world? Did someone say that this morning? Yeah? Didn't we hear someone say they're going to change the world? Revolution, new era, back to the future? That sounded a little bit like oversell to me. No? Didn't say that. Okay, beg your pardon. Anyway, under delivery. Oops, no, that didn't happen, did it? Anyway, no problem for open source software. You can test it beforehand. You download it. You beta test it. You can look at it. You can see if it works. So if the sales guys say that this is a Rolls Royce, well, in IT terms, and you can actually kind of go for a test drive and say, hey, this is not a Rolls Royce. This is just a Mercedes. Okay. Thank you very much. And then you're not, there's no bluff. We're on a level playing field here between the user and the channel, and that's excellent news for the client. And obviously, if it doesn't perform, if it doesn't have all those sexy functions that you want it to have, you don't have to pay for additional fees and salaries and subscriptions and all that. You can if you want, but you can also do it yourself. And if you've got the resources, you've got the know-how, I think that's the best way to do it. And of course, you can share those, which is obviously not good for some people's business models, but it's also good for the user. Usability, another one of these things, the user interface is in the wrong language. It's in the wrong color. The functions are not in the right way. The workflow is not right. Again, obviously, you can modify the code. You can change it. You can make it usable. Okay, just like these cheese, you can use all sorts of different ways of using it. I think that's a very, very important functionality, specifically into regions where they have different cultures, different languages, different ways of doing business. And I think that's very, very important. Okay, I'm not going to go through this. You've got the message. You've understood that the license actually does it all for you, or does it for the user. Standardization, privacy, vendor lock-in, all those issues, which are traditional concerns for the IT director, the guy who's buying, or girl who's buying this, are I'd like to say that open source solves it all. It's obviously not true because it's a huge effort. There's a whole analysis of the cost and how much this costs to actually implement, because it's all very well saying, yeah, I've got, open change. Now I've got whatever it is, and I can do it myself. The learning curve is obviously very steep, which is obviously where the channel comes in. But at least you have that. You have that guarantee. You have the guarantee that the code is there, that the documents and the code is actually standard, and it'll live for the future. So the future that Ignacio was talking about actually is hopefully a very long one and doesn't have a life cycle. Okay? No more cheese pictures, so you're lucky. For those who are lactose intolerant, I'm very sorry. My deepest apologies. Okay? What we cannot guarantee, yeah? Well, we can't guarantee there aren't any bugs, yeah? But at least you can fix them, yeah? We can't say that the project team is the most efficient in the world, but at least we've got the code and we can train them. Yeah? It's a different speed, different way of doing things, but you can get them trained. You don't have to pay for special certification. You don't have to. Well, you can actually access the code and get into it to get them to have the best skills. We don't always have the best documentation. Oh, sorry, Zentyal has the best documentation as the great exception to the free software world. But if you don't have it, you can write it yourself, and you can write it in your own language, which is also very, very important. And you can share it with the community. Okay. Oh, sorry, delivery. Project delivery is something I can't really guarantee, but that's what I'm here for, just to make sure that things actually do get delivered on time. And if they don't, maybe make them pay. Well, that's not very useful, actually. You just do some other solution. Okay? So the free software license, actually, I think, at least the rights that you're granted by a free software license, they're also, we can talk about having the right to distribute, the right to copy, all these IPR rights. I think it's much more interesting to see them from the perspective of the IT buyer or the IT chain. Yeah, the supply chain, and analyze what is the value added that this license brings. I think that's very important. And also you have these amazing results. Yeah, no platos combinados, please. Yes, my next T-shirt is going to say no platos combinados, please. Yeah, just use free software. Obviously, this is based on the principles of freedom, which Richard Stallman, who was mentioned earlier, enunciated, but I think they're much older than that. I think they come from actually even the Greeks and the Romans and Newton and people like that actually had the basis of freedom and of sharing, collaboration, which is obviously very important. It's something that I think is, at least I see it in my practice, it's quite difficult for companies who are used to a proprietary solution or proprietary environment. It's a cultural change. You have to look for your value in different places. It's difficult to get also clients used to traditional standard products, proprietary products, to think in a different way and to this leverage, this horrible buzzword. If Ignacio doesn't like synergies, I don't like leverage. But actually, if we can leverage these principles for the benefit of the end user, which is obviously a benefit for the channel and for the manufacturer, then I think the legal bit's done. It's done a very important thing. To summarize, again, our friends, Facebook, what do they say about that? Facebook's been developed up from open source. Again, Twitter, exactly the same. The whole thing is stacked. The whole stack is splitted. And I think, oh, yes, horrible. Oh, who's those? The big bad guys these days. Yeah. They're obviously built on everything they do is open source. They don't release it. That's one of the big issues we may have with Google. They do not release anything they do, or they do just a little bit. And if they do release one thing, they control it really, really, really strongly. But anyway, at least it's out there. There's more stuff. Google does pretty well, actually. Is this kind of global expansion, do you think? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway. I think, so just summing up and concluding, I think it's important to understand that I think the legal aspects, obviously I'm selling myself, I'm selling, what the lawyers did, we wrote these licenses. I think it brings an enormous amount of added value to the value proposition. I'm using these marketing terms. Is that right? I got the right terms? Value proposition, competitive advantage. Yeah, I'm on target. Right. Okay. I think the actual license actually brings a lot. And sometimes when I don't know, everybody has their own way of selling, their own way of implementing and deploying. But sometimes people forget about this, and they talk about services and subscription models, and they talk about whatever it is. I think going back to the basics and looking at what the license actually gives you is a huge amount of value for the whole chain. And that's something, I'm proud. Yeah, we did it. We did it right. Okay, thank you very much. That was all I want to say. I was told to keep it short, so I kept it short. I had lots of pictures, not quite as sexy pictures as Ignacio, I'm sorry to say. I've got less hair than Ignacio as well. But I'm here for questions.
Yeah, we have time for questions. Please raise your hand so you get a mic.
I can take them in Spanish as well, and other languages.
Spanish, English, everything is allowed. So Malcolm, by the way, your talk was fun. Was funny. Was true. People is not sleeping.
Yeah, no,
the coffee base there, and they're still here.
No. I can all see them. They're on the starting blocks. They're on starting blocks, saying, "Uh-oh, that coffee's out there."
Yeah, I was still over there.
Oh yeah.
Hi, I have one question for you. We all here love open source and so on. We also know the advantages. What disadvantages do you see in open source?
From the legal perspective?
Yes,
I'm
for
a lawyer.
the legal or even for the, commercial in the enterprise environment.
From a customer perspective, I can't, not really qualified to answer.
Yes, sorry.
No. But I can give, as a user and as a member of the community, I can give my own comment. I think I think 2007 was a big year, not just because of what we did in the court, in the tribunals, but there's also a change from free software basically being technological infrastructure software for IT departments. It moved into the user space enormously. I mean, Ubuntu is obviously probably the easiest example. You know, Linux for human beings, even for lawyers, which is that was they're going to have Lubuntu, Ubuntu for lawyers, which is a special brand of Ubuntu. I think OpenOffice is around that time suddenly actually it worked, which is one of the major problems. And I think one of the disadvantages of the OpenOffice it was kind of like sold as the great change or alternative to what's it called? Office, MS Office, yeah, and it didn't compete. It was not as good in quotes, not as usable. Taking into the fact that people have had drug addicted to Office for the last 20 years, but even so it was a big moment when I think IT went from free software IT went from the back office to front office. And there was a bit of an oversell there. So I think there are lots of disappointed projects where it didn't happen. In the public administration, for example, in Spain, Zaragoza is nearly unique in being one of the bigger successes. But I've seen them in Catalonia a lot where I work. And Tarragona, Girona, Generalitat, all of them have failed dismally in migrating to an open desktop. And they've even done projects, and there's been a failure there, I think, on the end user, and that's because, but that's normal. Free software came from technical people. You're building software for yourselves, okay? And it's only really later that people started building software for end users. I mean, when I say yourselves, I mean for networks.
Don't worry.
Yeah. So one of the disadvantages, I think, is that mismatch between expectations. So say, wow, free software, it was fantastic in the back office, in the backbone, in networking and all that. And so that great message, the great advantage that it brought, and it had, the quality, people thought was automatically going to happen on the front office. I'm a lawyer, so I'm front office, I'm an end user, very much so. And that was one of the problems. Another problem, I'm talking about problems now, I shouldn't be talking about problems in this conference, I'm talking about things, is speed, is a development cycle. It's much slower, it's longer. It's interesting talking to Ibn Moglen, who is Richard Stallman's lawyer from the Free Software Foundation. He says we've won this war because we have a 50-year term, whereas any proprietary software company has a quarterly term. They have to make numbers in the next quarter because they're quoted on the stock exchange. Whereas from a free software point of view, we have 25 years, we have 50 years. So if anybody who has that long-term strategy is going to win because we don't have to comply with short-term market expectations. Mm-hmm. And that's again something that it's fantastic from an evolutionary point of view. Again, going back to what Ignacio says, 2004, 2007. That's what, 25 years after free software started happening, or more. So that's a long time. In IT is even more longer. Yeah. So the speed of change is slower And the more front office you are, the slower it is. Well, now obviously there are professional companies coming in, making this all much faster than it used to be. But people who are used to a fairly high rate of evolution, I wouldn't call it revolution, of proprietary packages, in the free software world, it didn't move so fast. Again, I'm talking about the front office, not about it. And that's changing. That's changing now. So I think actually in the end, free software is now leading in as regards change, evolution, and whatever. So that's on the disadvantages. From a legal point of view, I think we've shot ourselves in the foot, if you know the expression. We've made it very difficult for ourselves because we have too many licenses, which is a good thing because each software project can choose a type of license they like that fits their ethic. So you have, permissive licenses, BSD, MIT, university software, do what you want. You have copyleft, you have soft copyleft, you have copyleft in the cloud. So different projects can choose the type of license they want. But that has fragmented the technology so that you have incompatibilities which shouldn't be there. Which is great news for me because I'm a lawyer and then I have to solve these incompatibilities. So actually it was a good thing. Now I'm thinking it. But from the development point of view, that too many licenses is a problem. So looking at it from legal issues. Apart from that, I can't say anything negative. Now the legal bit's good. No, there are other issues. It's complicated, but most of them apply just as much to proprietary as any software development. Like documentation, like sourcing, like compliance, like auditing. That's exactly the same in a proprietary environment as in an open source environment. The only different is that at the end of a proprietary environment development, it's all in a binary. You can't see what's gone in there. You can't see what's there. In an open source, it's all visible. So you're naked, as they said. The emperor is naked. You can see what's there. Which has a feedback because it means that people have to do their homework properly in an open source, which is good, which is what should happen. Okay, so that again is another legal element of all this kind of like ensuring that the project is properly managed, and that often does not happen. Why? Because there's no resources, there's no time, there's no skills. Yeah, guys coming out of university. They just don't know. They don't learn that at university. So yeah, there's another legal issue, which I think we can work on.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, very long answer. I'm a lawyer. I give long answers. I'm paid by the minute. So obviously,
What's only one
Yes,
talk,
yes.
Malcolm?
Yeah?
Only one talk. No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay, just one last question. Last question, Yvonne.
it was all clear. Hey, amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, even
I think
Dan hasn't got a question. Oh, he's keeping
Maybe
this out
two.
for the coffee, just to spoil my coffee.
Okay,
Thank you
Malcolm
very
is
much.
going to be
It's a
here.
pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much.